Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. A little bit of perhaps not so surprising news came in today, and that is that Vasyl Lomachenko, the three-weight Ukrainian world champion and amateur maestro, he's retired. He's 37 years of age. You know, do you need me to tell you about him? Okay, won his first title at featherweight, up to super feather, tried to become undisputed at lightweight, but lost I think it was for all four belts, wasn't it? Yeah, Devin Haney. He lost to Devin Haney on a disputed unanimous decision. I personally didn't have a problem with the decision. I thought had it gone to Lomachenko, I wouldn't have moaned either. But it was one of those fights where I definitely thought that, it could have gone either way. It was. I don't think it was. I've heard people say it's a robbery. It wasn't a robbery, Christ, But it was. You can argue against that decision. You can argue that Loma won that fight, clearly. And he was very upset afterwards. You saw him in the dressing room crying afterwards. He had one more fight after that and stopped George Kambosos in 11 rounds to pick up the IBF belt, which was vacant at the time because Haney had moved up in weight. He lost to Teofimo Lopez, the unanimous decision over 12, and he said he had a damaged shoulder, which... His first 6 rounds of that fight, I was thinking, what's he doing? Because he was moving an awful lot. Lomachenko, as I'm sure you know, had this incredible footwork, unbelievable, really. He just disappear in front of you. He'd be in front of you, and then he'd be disappeared because his footwork, the angles that he used to create were so... it's almost balletic. He's almost like a ballet dancer. And in fact, he did study Ukrainian folk dancing when he was very young. His father, who was training to be a fighter, said, right, for the next year or two, we're going to be learning how to dance. And of course, the young Loma was thinking, what bloody hell is he talking about? But that's why, because he would just disappear. And he was doing this against Lopez. But unfortunately, he wasn't letting his hands go, probably because he did have this shoulder injury. And I think that Teo legitimately beat him. I wouldn't blame Teo for Loma coming in injured any more than I would blame George Kambosos for Teo coming in injured. If you're injured, you don't get in that ring. And then if you do get in the ring and lose, don't moan about it. Don't try and take it away from the victor. I don't like that. So yeah, for me, Haney, won the fight. But if you look at some of Loma's other wins, I mean, he was the first person to beat Jermaine Ortiz, who was undefeated in 16, 17 fights. I think it was a draw on the record as well. He beat Richard Comey when Comey had something left. That was a unanimous 12-round decision. He absolutely bewildered and befuddled Masayoshi Nakatani. He was a very, very good Japanese fighter, real tough guy, who came in with a 19-1 record. And Loma sort of floored Nakatani in 4th or 5th, I think it was, and then stopped him in 9 rounds. And you could tell Nakatani was like, what the hell am I doing with this guy? He couldn't find him. He couldn't see him. The guy was just zipping around and buzzing around. And that's always the image I had of Loma when his footwork was in full flight. He was like the bee buzzing around you, but he was stinging you constantly as he was buzzing around. And that's how he'd get a lot of his stoppages, by simply, it's almost like death of 1,000 cuts or death of 1,000 stings, maybe. He went the distance with Luke Campbell in Britain. He knocked out Anthony Crolla that wasn't in Britain, was it? That was in America, I think. That was in 4 rounds. He won a decision over Jose Pedraza. Pedraza, was he undefeated at the time, or did he have a defeat on his record? I can't remember offhand. No, I can't remember. I think he might have had a defeat on his record, but don't quote me on that one. And he stopped Jorge Linares. Now, all these fighters, lightweights, the thing you have to remember about Loma is that he wasn't ever a lightweight. He looked tiny compared to a lot of these bigger lightweights, like Comey, for example, who's a very big, muscular lightweight, but it didn't matter. And if there was a mistake that he made in his career, Loma, it's that he fought in the wrong weight category. Because when he was fighting at super featherweight, Nicholas Waters, he handed him his first defeat, and Jason Sosa, Roman Martinez, he knocked him flat. Martinez, a 3-weight WBO super feather champ. got knocked flat in 5 by Loma. But when he was beating all these super feathers, you're thinking, this guy's going to be undisputed champ without question. But he moved up to lightweight, and I never quite got that. I never quite thought, why is he doing that? Is it just a case of weight jumping for the sake of it? I mean, he's good enough to do it. But had he stayed at 130, I think he might have been undisputed. Maybe he wanted bigger challenges. I don't know. Maybe he likes fighting bigger men. And this is something that often gets overlooked in boxing. A lot of smaller guys like to fight bigger men because they're faster, they're more agile, they can they've got a lower center of gravity. Perhaps if they're shorter, they can make themselves, a smaller target. And they can rely, if they're skillsters rather than sluggers. I mean, small sluggers don't like fighting big sluggers. But if you've got that, stick and move and sting, stick, move and sting attitude, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, as someone once said. If you've got that type of style, then you can sort of buzz around the bigger guy and beat them up. Not just beat them, but beat them up. Maybe Loma liked fighting bigger guys. But certainly, I mean, he was WBO super feather champ. I'm doing his career sort of in reverse order now. He also held the world featherweight world featherweight title. And who did he beat to win that belt? He beat none other than the previously undefeated Gary Russell Jr., one of the many Gary Russells. This is Gary Allen Russell, who I don't think fights anymore, but he was undefeated in 24. And I mean, the cards were relatively close, and Russell was a skillful fighter who would go on to win his own title and defend it a lot. Unfortunately, he was a PBC fighter, so he'd only fight once a year. But he proved himself to be a pretty good champion before he lost for the second time. The first time he lost was to a Vasyl Lomachenko for the vacant WBO featherweight belt. And this was Lomachenko's third pro fight. That was it. And prior to that, he had fought for the vacant WBO title, his second pro fight, and lost a split decision to Orlando Salido. And Salido, I mean, a teak tough veteran, to put it mildly. He was at the end of his career, but he had enough left, enough toughness, enough experience. Only had experience, to sort of old man Loma. Because Loma, of course, in his second pro fight, hadn't quite settled into the professional ranks, as you can tell. Even his first pro fight was against a guy with a 25-3 record, and he knocked him out in 4 rounds. So he tried to jump a little bit too quickly with Salido, but having lost the split decision for the belt, for the WBO feather belt, it then became vacant again. And he said, "Well, give me another shot," and he got the shot, and he beat previously undefeated Gary Russell Jr. I mean, that's how good this guy was. He was amazing. And he scored other wins. I mean, Guillermo Rigondeaux, he beat him. Rigondeaux was stopped. He quit on his stool, along with Manuel Mariega, and I think Sosa quit as well. And I think at one point there were about four retirements in a row that Lomachenko won, and they were beginning to call him Lomachenko, or Nomaschenko, because Rigondeaux was, I think he quit in 6. I think, was that a shoulder injury he had or something? Sosa was just quit because he was beaten up. I mean, there was that famous little cameo where he put Sosa down. Sosa gets up, and Lomachenko's already walked to a neutral corner and is beckoning for him to get up and start fighting again, and kind of demoralising. Nicholas Walters, he quit after 7, the Axeman. I mean, Lomachenko, and so that's his professional career. I can't think of anything I've missed out. But that was he finished with 18 wins, 12 KOs, and 3 defeats, all on points. So you look at statistically, you think 18 wins in 21 fights, that's pretty good. But, is he a Hall of Famer? You're damn right he's a Hall of Famer. Look at the quality of the opposition. It's good. Look at the belts he won. Look at the fact that he campaigned at lightweight when he was never a lightweight. I bet you even now at 37 he could make super feather. I bet you anything you like. He looks so much smaller than a lot of his opponents, and yet he got the job done. Now, as an amateur, I think he lost a grand total of once. I don't know what the exact figure is. 384 wins and 1 defeat, something ridiculous. And you can certainly, I don't follow the amateur game anywhere nearly as closely as I do the pro game. I keep an eye on it, but it's pretty much a casual eye. But even I know that this guy, if you look at his amateur record, you can certainly make a case for him being the greatest amateur of all time with that record. And the one that he lost, he obviously avenged it a few times over. But he's obviously Olympic gold medalist. We haven't mentioned that, have we? Two-time Olympic gold medalist as well. So this guy really, as they say, completed boxing. And he made a little statement today, a little video statement, which he was obviously reading, because it sounded as I don't know, English isn't his first language. He speaks a little bit of English, but not great. And someone had obviously written it for him, and he was reading it. And of course, inevitably, he first of all wanted to thank his Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ. Don't they all? But he says, he guided a prideful young man down a path that repeatedly showed me that fame, legacy, and recognition are not the true purposes in life. Okay, Vasyl, I like that. Yeah, I'll go with that. I'm grateful for every defeat and victory, both in the ring and in life. I am thankful that as my career comes to an end, I have generated clarity about the direction a person must take in order to achieve true victory. Interesting way of putting it. Not just in the ring, but in the whole self. Only then can one achieve their true reward. So he's very, very, thankful for this. Very, his. Excuse me, just a moment. He's very. I had a phone call coming through. I beg your pardon. So he's very grateful for everything that's happened, and his attitude is one of, well, you know what? I'm kind of. This has been about a journey. This has been about me finding myself. It hasn't just been about boxing. And he says that his father, Vasyl Lomachenko, not only taught me the art of boxing, but also how to be a role model for my own children, the same way he's been for me. So he seems to regard boxing as his vocation. Well, God, it was a vocation he mastered, wasn't it? But boxing was almost not unimportant, but secondary to a bigger picture, if you know what I mean. He seems to have a very philosophical view of how his boxing career has gone, because it's paralleled his life. He says, I've made mistakes in my life and in the gym, but my father was always by my side. And he talks about Igor's Klimas. He says, thank you, manager. He says, thank you for everything you've done for me and my family. You're a man who knows his craft, the best manager in the world, who became a friend and part of our family. Your professionalism goes hand in hand with your character. I mean, how many fighters say that about their manager? And also he says about Bob Arum and Top Rank, I want to thank Top Rank and Mr. Bob Arum for the amazing opportunity to showcase my abilities in boxing. I would also be remiss not to thank my dear boxing fans around the world. You've always supported me with passion for over a decade. I hope you continue to respect and love this sport. Peace to all. May the Lord bless his people. Okay. That's a nice way to sign off. When I say that someone else had written it, what I'm basically talking about is someone probably helping him out with the English. The sentiments quite possibly come from Lomachenko. I've no need to doubt that at all. But yeah, it won 3 weights in 3 world titles in 3 weights, 2-time Olympian. Yeah, fantastic. What an incredible fighter. What an incredible fighter. And he did, in the middle of that rather brief career, I suppose, 18 wins, 3 defeats. He did have that 13-fight unbeaten streak where he was just making people who were very good fighters look like absolute amateurs. Yeah, great fighter indeed. I'm going to miss him. Anyway, let me know what you think. Please leave your comments below about Loma. How do you remember him? What sticks in your mind? And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading your comments. But Vasyl Lomachenko, you have earned a fine retirement. I think he probably made a fair bit of money as well, which is always nice. So go away, walk off into the sunset, knowing you gave us a lot of pleasure, and look after your family and Peace be on you and, of course, all of Ukraine. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.